What's up, what's going on, legends? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking Modern Warfare Zombies and a few of the upcoming features that will be implemented with the Season 3 Reloaded content. No, we won't be talking about the Rift, the new story mission, anything like that, but a couple of features that were actually kind of guaranteed in a creator call that was held recently. Now, this is a big Call of Duty creator call, including Warzone, basically multiplayer, zombies. So I actually wasn't invited to that. Hopefully sometime in the future we will be included in those. But they told some of the zombies creators or the people that were actually involved in it that there would be a couple of features getting implemented with Season 3 Reloaded, one of which will be an increased stash size, increasing us from 10 to 20, which at this point many of us already know about. And the other one is actually going to be a way for us to cool down our schematics quicker. That way you'll be able to actually craft them, hopefully significantly faster. Just kind of depends on how much you actually play. And there are a few issues with this upcoming system that I will talk about in today's video, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But outside of that, it is really cool for them to actually implement this, as having some system is definitely better than no system at all. My only hope is after actually creating a spreadsheet to see exactly how much essence would be required, or roughly how much essence would be required to get each of our cooldown times all the way down to 0. Be able to craft that item once again. And I was actually shocked that it doesn't seem to be as helpful as I was hoping it would be. It will kind of make sense as we explain it here. But again, I do want to preface this by saying it is better that they are implementing some system than no system at all. However, I am hoping they will be willing to kind of adjust this a little bit, because I don't think this system will be all that beneficial to everyone. Again, just kind of depending how much each person plays. So if you guys aren't familiar with how this system is going to work, essentially, if you are familiar with that all, the insured weapon slots, if you do lose them, they do have a cooldown period. In order to get that cooldown period to go down, you do need to extract essence. If you guys are familiar with DMZ, it was very similar in that where you were able to kind of get your cooldown periods to go down by just extracting money. Same thing's going to be taking place here, and based on how much essence you actually make it out of the match with and extract with will determine the amount of cooldown period you will shave off of your, crafting schematic. So for example, let's say you go in and maybe you come out with 15,000, you might shed off about an hour and 2 minutes off the time, of which you can then craft that schematic once again. So maybe if you guys want to go in with an uncommon tool, it's only got a 2-hour craft time, you guys might be able to even get that craft time back in a singular match, as it's not really going to take all that much essence to get the uncommon tool back. Now the problem is not everybody's going to be going for uncommon tools or even those low cooldown things, because they're such easy items to get in game. So the more sought after items are the ones with a much longer cooldown period. And what I was actually finding is that most people are probably going to go into this thinking, let me go in, do as many contracts as possible, get as much essence as I can, extract, and then just continue that cycle. But I think one problem that we're going to come across here is that when you're actually going in, trying to min-max the amount of essence you're going to be extracting, you're more than likely going to have to utilize going to a pack-a-punch machine, going over to perk machines, doing things that is going to cost essence throughout your journey, which is going to deplete the amount of essence you're going to be able to kind of leave the match with. So what I decided to do was create a little spreadsheet to determine how much essence we would actually need to shave off how much amount of time. Now, the least amount that you can actually have is 100 essence, or that you can pick up. And 100 essence is roughly going to shave off 25 seconds to the cooldown time of the schematic of whatever one we've already crafted. So as long as you've crafted a schematic and the cooldown period has already started, essentially any essence at 100 plus that you get obviously pick up will continue to just shave off time as long as you extract it at the end of your match. So like I said, 100 essence is going to equal that 25-second cooldown reduction. Now, unfortunately, when we're looking at the overall cooldown period for a majority of the lower items that you can get, whether it's a Pack 1 crystal, rare tool, the perks, those are going to be from 8 hours or less. And even a Pack 1 crystal is going to take 115,000 essence extracted in order to redeem a Pack 1 crystal. At that point, it's like, what are you even doing? Why am I going to extract 115,000 essence when I can go over for 5,000? Or if I already have the ability to go in with 5,000 because I have the containment level, I can just go in and pack-a-punch to level 1 and save myself the pain of having to extract 115,000. That honestly doesn't really make any sense why you would do that. The only positive to that would be maybe, you go into a few matches, you find yourself in a situation where you could go ahead and grab the Pack 1 crystal once again, saving yourself the 5,000 essence. But I think the amount of time it would take you to not only get 115,000 essence and extract it, it just wouldn't be worth it in the end anyway, because you have just such easy access to Pack 1. I just feel like that's kind of a waste of time. And for anything before this, whether it's the rare tool, the perks, or the uncommon tool, most people don't care about those because they can get into a match and get pretty easy access to those just completing their contracts or just playing the game in general. So going for any essence to be extracted to reduce those cooldown times, I feel like it's just a waste. So the ones that people are going to be the most sought after will be the Epic Tool and higher, and the Epic Tool does start out at 10 hours. So with a 10-hour cooldown time, we are looking at people having to extract 144,000 essence across a few matches. That probably is going to be the case unless you're with a group and you're able to get a ton of it, or everybody's just willing to give you their essence. It's going to be pretty hard to do. I mean, that's going to be 72 tier 1 contracts that you would have to complete. If you do have a full, containment level, even if you're going to the tier 3 zone, which you're going to have to spend essence or resources in order to actually be able to be successful in and to be able to min-max the amount of contracts that you can complete, you're still going to have to complete about 23 contracts in the tier 3 zone just to cool down that Epic Tool one time. Now, this is going to be a huge problem, obviously, when you extend past this, as the Pack 2 Crystal has a 16-hour cooldown time, the Legendary Tool has a 24-hour cooldown time, 48 hours and 72 hours are beyond that. Now, in my opinion, this is where things get the most tricky, because these are where the items are actually worth value, or what people actually want to use. So at a Pack 2 Crystal, you're waiting on a 16-hour cooldown time, or you need to extract 230,400 essence in order to get that cooldown reduced. So across the time period, which I would imagine even if you do 50,000 per match and you're extracting that, that is going to be 4 matches. Obviously, the time period that you are in the matches counts against the cooldown time as well. You might get lucky in a 4 or 5 hour time period to be able to then craft that Pack-a-Punch level 2 crystal once again. But I think that's going to be crazy to expect for a majority of players. You got to think about this concept here. If I go in, I'm more than likely going to use a Pack 2 crystal, or maybe even a Pack 3 crystal. And my idea is I want to get that cooldown on my Pack 2 crystal back as soon as possible, because I will more than likely want to craft that before I get off the game, because otherwise the next day when I get back on, that cooldown period would have been done anyway, and I would have already been able to craft that Pack 2 crystal, meaning that all that time I spent earlier trying to cool it down, or the day before, trying to cool it down so that I could actually craft it, ended up being a waste of my time because I wasn't able to craft it at the end of my session, meaning the cooldown period would have been done the next time I got on the game anyway. And this is going to continue to be worse the further in you get, obviously. 24-hour cooldown period. If you use your legendary tool, you're expecting to go in, maybe you're trying to extract as much essence as possible, you're headed straight to the tier 3 zone. You're going to be able to make it into that tier 3 zone. You're going to be able to knock out a ton of contracts, but you are still limited to that 45-minute period, and you are expected to get 345,000 essence extracted in order to get that legendary tool back. So that is going to take you quite a few matches. Potentially, let's just say it's a 45-minute match and it takes you 5 or 6 games. That's going to be a long play session in hopes to get the legendary tool back. So I want to repeat this again. You're going to get to craft the legendary tool. You're more than likely going to do a run with your legendary tool because you're going to want to use it in order to maximize your time. And then you're going to go ahead and go through a run. You're more than likely not going to get 345,000 in a singular run. I don't even think you're going to get much more than 50-something thousand unless you're, super efficient and lucky, or you have teammates with you. So you've already wasted the legendary tool, you've already used it. You're now going to spend the rest of your time playing the game hoping to get the cooldown period down fast enough that by the time you get off the game, you will then be able to craft it. Otherwise, again, by the time you get on the next day, that time period would have probably been a waste anyway. It's probably been 24 hours since you crafted the last one, because last time you got on the game, you crafted your legendary tool, and you went in trying to cool down your time period as fast as possible. And again, it gets worse when you go to the Wonder Weapon, the Classified, and even the Pack 3 Crystal, because no matter how much cooldown time you actually reduce, if it's not enough to actually craft the schematic by the time you get off the game, by the time you probably get on the next day, it wouldn't have made a difference anyway, and you would have just wasted your time trying to extract essence, which overall you could have used to probably benefit your guy, whether it's Pack 1, Pack 2, Pack 3, using those to have better runs that way, get more perks, go into the Dark Ether. There's a lot of things you could do with the essence outside of extracting it, just trying to go for this cooldown period. And it is even possible that you get some of these items as a reward just going in and playing the game normally. So I think that this is overall a huge oversight on their end, because they are, again, implementing a system that I think is great. I'm not trying to dog on the system or the fact that they're trying to implement something that could be beneficial to the experience. But what I am going to dog on is the fact that this seems like an oversight due to the fact that at what point does this cooldown system actually benefit the casual player? Because if they're crafting the items and they're spending the entire time they're on the game trying to reduce that cooldown time, and they're not able to actually reduce it to a time that makes the most sense for their playtime, then they're just wasting their time in general doing something that actually isn't benefiting them. So my fear is that not only is this system something that won't really benefit a majority of the players, I think that most people are actually going to end up being upset that this was implemented, and it's so hard to actually reduce the cooldown times that it makes it feel like that the system is pretty much irrelevant. And to give us a little more insight on just how insane this actually is, in my spreadsheet, I created a tab here that we have the tier 1 bounties or whatever contracts you want to complete, how many it would take to actually reduce or get enough essence to reduce the schematic cooldown times. And let's just go to the most extreme because I don't want to make this video any longer than I have to. For the Pack 3 Crystal, you need 1,036,800 essence total. Let's just go to the Tier 2 contracts. You would need 345 Tier 2 contracts, which in within that 3-day period of playing the game, or I guess 2-day period, because if you didn't actually get the cooldown time by the end of the 2nd day, by the time you got on the 3rd day, that 72-hour period would have probably been passed anyway, and any reduction that you tried to make towards that would have been a waste of time. So if you aren't able to actually shred off enough time that by the end of the session, previous to the day it would have been available anyway, that you can't actually craft it then, it's absolutely a waste of time. And let's just say we're absolutely going to the tier 3 zone each and every match. We have max containment level. We're super efficient. It's still going to be 160 contracts that you would have to complete within basically a 2-day period in order, again, by the time you get off that 2nd day, to craft the Pack 3 Crystal. Meaning I just don't feel like this system is going to benefit the players almost at all. And I think they do absolutely need to consider making adjustments to speed this up. I think at most, I mean, if somebody plays for like an 8-hour session, I feel like they should, at least within the realm of reason, be able to knock out a 48-hour cooldown or even a 72-hour cooldown to make maybe the next day that they play, or just in general, their items more available as they've played a lot more of the game. I think it's insane to expect that any player would be able to cool down their items enough in a day or even in 2 days or 3 days to make the item any more available than it already is with the current cooldown system. So I think that's enough of a rant for me today. I've gone into the system. I have my spreadsheet. It kind of pretty much explains it the best way I can explain it in numbers form, and why I don't really think it's all that great of a system after looking further into it. So again, I really hope this is something they look forward to adjusting in the future. Otherwise, I think it is a complete waste of time. And in the end, it's just going to make the players more upset than they already are with the system not even being available. It's worse when you give them something that makes them feel like it's going to be a benefit and it's not a benefit at all. I just don't see that being a positive. So again, I'm just hoping this is a bit of an oversight issue more than anything else, and they will quickly go in, make some adjustments, allowing us to actually cool down our items a lot faster than they currently will be as of, the implementation. That way we can actually go in and have some fun, and it will benefit the experience. But that's going to wrap things up for us here. Thank you guys for all the support in today's video, all support in the channel. I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.